Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come on in. I'm so excited to be here. We're doing a special show. I'm Julia Cannon, and I've got a special guest with me, Adrian Vallera with Disclosure Fest. And yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited. We've got He's got a fantastic event coming up, and so we want to talk about that right off the bat, and then we'll go into kind of how your history and how it connects us. It's really cool. It's a very cool story, guys.
Oh,
Um, anyway, Adrian, what did we want to know about? We got the Disclosure Fest. It's a mass meditation initiative coming up in June on the it's a solstice in June.
yeah, solstice. Yeah, so June 21st through the 23rd at Castaic Lake. I keep trying to. We moved venues, so it's just like it's at the Castaic Lake, and it's just like 30 minutes outside of LA. So yeah, it's a beautiful summer solstice event because summer solstice is going to be on the 21st on Friday, and then Saturday is the full moon, our strawberry full moon. So it's going to be a
Oh
really
my gosh, so it's a double whammy.
yeah,
Wow.
so very intentional, a lot of purpose.
Mhm.
Now the mass meditation initiative is now one of the biggest mass meditations in the world. So it's been really cool getting that started in 2017 and how it's gotten to this point. We've had up to 22,000 people in front of the stage during a mass meditation at one of our events, actually two of our events, and it's been what a
So,
journey it's been.
well, yeah, so how did that all start? Because that's a whole thing in its own, besides
Yeah,
the other events that you're now putting on, but that's a big deal. Just
yeah,
the
it's really, it's just, again, it's like I got out of the music industry after being in there for 22 years, a little discouraged because I was trying to bring consciousness into the music industry and feeling like I was kind of hitting brick walls everywhere. And I was like, so I left and then I started working on a movie and I was getting really close to shooting it finally. And then Spirit came through in a meditation and said, put it on hold and start this platform called Disclosure Fest Foundation, which what it is now. And it's not really just an event. It's a platform to inspire people to be of service. So there's like our homeless initiative, our children's initiative, our tree plantings and beach cleanups, and our elderly initiative. So it's really like a platform to come to this festival and receive this beautiful activation through the collective energies just combining, coming together in that whole heart space. And there's always a beautiful activation, and then inspiring people to come after the event and join us on the weekends when we whether we're feeding the homeless or going to a children's school and bringing yoga and meditation and sound healing and breath work, and trying to get children, because as a child we didn't grow up with any of this stuff. It was like later in life where something happens and there's an activation, and
Mhm.
and
You're like,
then all of a sudden,
what's going
yeah,
on?
yeah, and then all of a sudden we're a bunch of crazies, but we're like following the path, and that's just we're just remembering. So yeah, and then so when Disclosure Fest came in, it was more about like trusting and surrendering and doing this. So yeah, like our first festival, the Mass Meditation Initiative had 4,500 people. And then the second one was like 11,000. And then the third one, 22,000. It kind of kept doubling. It was really beautiful. And we never really had huge headliner like music acts or speakers. I mean, we did, but not really. So it was really like interesting, because we also did it for free for like the first 3 years, which is very difficult because it's 3 or 4 music stages and 12 or so workshop tents. It's like 32 acres of an activation.
Oh
So
my
it's like you get there before and there's just lawn. We set up and it's fully activated. I mean, it's very costly to do, but Spirit was like, no, keep it free for that
God.
time.
Mhm.
Spirit was always like, it's a healing experience how people show up. I didn't understand it, so I just was, again, trusting and surrendering to it, and then eventually we got, like, here's a donation line and here's a free line, and, like, the free line would wrap around for miles, and the donation line was moving, and, like, people were like, "Oh, should I sit here for 5 hours or I should donate $5?" You know?
And get
So
in.
it was interesting, and then the 2017, 18, and 19 happened, and then my mom's always at the gate. She just like doesn't. She loves to be there,
Oh,
because everyone's just coming in. She likes to
yeah,
see people,
yeah.
and then I went to bring her food on that 2019 event, and then I was like brought her food, and I'm like I gotta go, and she's like no no come back, and she's like oh I need to tell you like I don't know, 400 or 500 people came back to donate and told me that they can't be here for free. And I was like, that's when I finally figured out like what Spirit was saying. It was so impactful for
Yeah,
them
yeah.
that they had to walk 30 acres to like get to this gate and be like, I can't be here for free. And people were donating like 70, $100, a few $100. I was just like,
Mhm,
that's how impactful the activation was, and
mhm,
it's really beautiful because since we do the tree plantings and the what's it called like tree plantings or feeding the homeless or whatever we're doing, like that's where I'm always there, so people would come up to me, and I have like hundreds of these testimonials that I wish I
mhm,
filmed them, but people were just like, yeah, I just came to this event and I'm just not the same person, something
mhm,
happened to me, and like that's where their activation, and now they're like into yoga or
mhm,
meditation or plant-based diet or lifestyle, and just
mhm,
being of service is like something that they've never really brought into their life, but now it's important. And I think your mom talked about like
mhm,
service a few times. I
mhm.
remember hearing it multiple times how, and that's what came to me about it. There's like a dormant ascension key within us that
Yeah,
like, because we've developed this construct that, fight that we're constantly just survival mode, like, we have to pay the bills, we have to
yeah.
work,
Mhm,
we have to, and then when you're downtime, you're just burnt out,
mhm,
so it's like, where is the time to figure
mhm.
out how to be of service, so
Well, exactly, and how it was is like it would come through so many sessions, like, they wanted to know the person might wanna know why they were here, like, "What am I doing here?" They would
yeah.
get to that point, and the answer was never this, "Pay bills, do the jobs," all like that. It was always to help each other, and that's where
Mm,
service, it's like, that's how we are of service, we help each other. It may not be something grand, it
yeah,
may be, we're just help someone, and and then that probably will grow. It doesn't really matter as long as, just do the one step. You just have to do it one step at a time. And then, like you're saying, something happens, and all of a sudden, they're like, I want to do something.
right.
That that's where they're shifting. Yes.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of like a little, rough draft of
Mm-hmm.
speeding through the history of Disclosure Fest. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's so beautiful because also QHHT has been such a huge part of my life from the beginning. Like a lot of what I do has come from our, QHHT sessions that I've
Uh-huh.
done with various people.
Well,
And
let's talk about that.
yeah, well, I mean, we did our event in November,
Mhm.
which was such a so amazing to
Yeah.
have you since we launched like our new conference, Stairway to the Stars,
Mhm.
and we had you,
It was
and you
amazing,
did such
guys.
a great talk. People are still
Mm-hmm.
talking about that talk.
Mm-hmm.
That's you can check that out on disclosurefest.org as well. Um, yeah, it was so beautiful, and it was like one of the things that came through is when we were doing our Stairway to the Stars awards show, is this like lifetime achievement award,
Mm-hmm.
and like everyone was like, well, who's, but I always had, Mama Dolores Cannon in my mind for that,
Uh-huh.
and we just had to add that category, the posthumous award for lifetime achievement, and it was so beautiful to have you there and to tell that story too, because even when this came through, it was like in 2020, I was on like a trip with my partner at the time, and we were passing through the Luxor, like walking through it, and then that's when this, my spine went straight, and my
Wow.
tongue touched the roof of my mouth, and I was like, something's coming through, and it's like, I was like, babe, I think I need to do something here, and And then it just kind of, snowballed into all working out, the manifestation of it. And, it wasn't till like a week ago, and I was planning this meditation for months, and for months and months, I was like, what's the meditation? I always get these little hits, these little, like, hints of like what the
Right.
intention is for the event. And it was to create a timeline that is most aligned with our hearts. And it wasn't until like a month before the event, I would think maybe 3 weeks or a month before the event, I was at a lunch with Rhea, one of our amazing staff, devotees over here. She just, been here working with DisclosureFest forever, and we were talking. We always connect in a deep level. And we were connecting about pyramids and all this thing, and all of a sudden I remembered this QHHT like regression that I had 5 years prior. And it was like, opening my eyes, and I'm in Antarctica, and there's this black pyramid sticking out of the ground. And I walk up to it, and then there's this scaffolding cut out of the snow, like it was, man-made scaffolding, they were de-earthing this pyramid in the snow.
Okay.
And then I get to the bottom, there's this grand door, and we walk in, and there's just levels and levels of doors. And I started walking in, and walking into these doors, and they were all different timelines. And then it like hit me at this lunch with Rhea, because the Luxor in Vegas is a black pyramid. And if you walk
pyramid.
levels and levels of doors, and it was just like, wow, this meditation is about collapsing all these doors and creating this beautiful timeline that is the most aligned with our hearts. And that's how potent and powerful QHHT has been for me. And along with all the grid work I do, like I'm sent, I just got back from a grid work journey that I did. It was amazing light work at Ashley Marie. And took us to New Mexico. It took us to Sedona. It took us to Joshua Tree. It was a beautiful activation that was about releasing these frequencies, these codes from the earth, that is going to help us integrate these upgrades that we're all feeling more gentle on us, so that we can kind of, not get confused by them, and actually maybe tune in and start like, integrating them to do the work, deeper,
Right.
So yeah, and then now I'm leaving on another one for this next eclipse one, and it's just they just keep coming. And I gotta say, this all started from a QHHT session probably 6 or 7 years ago, where with an amazing, she worked with your mom for so many years, Sian, and it's been since then. That was my first one. It was like 2017, and I was sent to 3 or 4 different places that came through a future life, I would say, or or past life, whatever, so but it was
it's because they're all at the same time anyway.
Yeah,
So it's like, there's
exactly.
like parallel. Who knows what they are, but they can
Yeah.
be futuristic. It can be
Yes, this one was like an Arcturian. I met multiple versions of different densities of myself: Arcturian, Venusian, Mantis, and then this non-physical reality being, and that's what I was shown, these, because every time I do these meditations, I get these codes, and I kind of write them down. I journal these light codes that come through.
Yeah.
And like, I was in this meditation, and I was in this regression, and wow, it's so potent when this non-physical reality being that did show a form, just so I can connect with them, because the vibration was so great. I felt like I was going to explode. It was so high.
Yeah.
And then when I finally tuned into it, that's why I had to show a physical version of himself, so that I can kind of tune in better, because I don't, this is new to me. Like, how do I tune in with a non, it was really interesting. And when they did, it was just like this beautiful grid activation that I was shown. And it was and then he reminded me of these symbols that I've been drawing, and these three, and specifically a page that had like probably 50 or 60 symbols.
Wow.
And then he zoomed in on the three symbols, and I was like, go to these places and carve them into these rocks. And then I had to draw the rock formations and then go to these places, and I'm like, oh, there it is. I'm like, okay, and I got to carve this in the rock. You know what I mean? And it's like the intention was, that one was, the intention was an acceleration. It's a wave that was starting from Los Angeles as an ascension acceleration cycle. And
Okay.
this was 2017. So again, it's just like trusting and surrendering, and just doing the work. So
Yeah.
HHT like has been such a huge part of my life. So blessed and honored to like to know you, and to like even be able to work with you. And now like this is our second event that you're coming to.
Yeah.
This is part of our integration. And again, our event used to be a one-day event, and the only reason I wasn't wanting to do multiple days is because it tends to turn into a party at these festivals. They're outdoors, so I kind of, we're not a party, we're an activation. So it's like, so I'm like, if I'm going to do multi-day event, what are we going to do? And it's like this integration workshop series just was coming through, because when people go to these conferences and these events, there's just so much that goes on, like, so
Yeah.
you get home and you're like back in, you're like missing the event. You're like, man, I wish I was back, but
Mhm.
just back in your world, and now it's like, now it's time to integrate that.
Right.
It tends to be challenging sometimes because there
Mhm.
was so much.
Yeah.
So that's why I love that you're there, and you're going to be part of one of these integration workshop series, where one day you're going to do your talk in your workshop, and then the next day those same people are going to come in for the integration part of it, so that before they even leave the event, they've already integrated a really big part of it in their lives.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm excited to do that too, because that's what I was wanting to do. I've only done it one other time in a talk where I had time to be able to do it, where I could let them break up into groups and kind of, we just played with it just a little bit. But this is great because it really gives the space to really explore that and let them work with it, understand the information, fully start working with it. That'll
Yeah.
be
Oh,
hmm
so excited. I hope I'm not crazy busy and I can actually take part of it, but we're filming it.
yeah.
Yeah. So,
Super. That's
yeah.
gonna be lots of fun. You were talking about the grid work. We were talking about this the other day on the phone, um, and it was something that was interesting because when Mom was talking about when she did the 3 waves of volunteers and all of that was really coming through, and it still is. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the popular book that she's written to date, because it resonates with so many people. But I remember, right? Oh, within the last year, definitely before she passed, she started talking a little bit about the grid and the grid keepers. And I
Mm.
remember when that came out, because it was like the waves, it was like, okay, but I didn't really resonate so much with that. But when she said grid keepers, I'm like, whoa, I
Yeah.
resonate. That one triggered something. And,
Yeah.
and then you were talking about, and I'm like, okay, here we go.
Did we ever dig up any of that? Because I am so
Oh
curious on
shoot,
it.
no, you asked me to, and I haven't had a chance yet. But yeah,
Yeah.
anybody remember her talks? I remember in a talk, I not sure if it made it into one of the last Convoluted Universe books, but I definitely remember her talking about it in a lecture. So if anybody, hey, you guys be my patrol out there, find it.
Yeah.
Be
Please
wonderful.
find that. I want to see that. Well,
Yes.
yeah, that's so, yes. It's very interesting. Yeah. Because like, the gridding is it won't stop. I mean, in 2022 in October, I was sent to Rome, to grid all of Rome, like, and so it's just, they keep coming through. And like with the mass meditation initiative, it originally was that I'm supposed to be bringing this festival, this mass meditation, to 5 cities.
Okay.
And once we activate all 5 cities, then we can activate the grid, which is those 5 cities. So,
Okay.
so far we've only done 2 of them, which was Los Angeles and Washington, D.C. In like 2018 on 11/11, we brought it to Washington, D.C. I rented out the Lincoln Memorial and the JFK hockey
Oh my
field and and the reflection pond, that's
My
in,
goodness.
yeah, we had like 20,000 people there. It was really
Wow.
beautiful. A week before, I had 4 other light workers doing the grid work on
Mhm.
on DC, because that place is designed a certain way, and we had to do
Yeah.
some work on it.
Okay.
But yeah, it's always been the gridding. So I wonder if I'm a grid keeper. Like, that would be
I
interesting.
wonder, the only thing that, it just resonated, and like I've not ever gotten any instruction to do anything like that, what you're talking about. I think I do mine probably at night in my sleep or
Oh,
something.
interesting. Yeah.
I have woken up, because I think it has to do with a lot of symbols. You keep talking about symbols, and a lot of times at night, I've asked them if I could be aware when I'm being activated or upgraded or anything like
Mhm.
that. So I get woke up in the middle of the night many times, and I'll see all these symbols coming in and
Oh,
stuff.
wow.
And yeah, it's really. And then now when it happens, I'm like, so why am I awake? And they said, you wanted to be aware. You asked to be aware. So I'm like, okay, that's right. And then as soon as it's done, I go right back to sleep. Now there's been a couple of times or several times toward morning. I'll wake up, I'm opening my eyes, and I see this grid, and it's just like, and I have to keep doing that because it's like, what is this? I mean, it's very much a grid. It's just
Yeah.
like, so I'm guessing.
Sounds like it. Wow, it's so interesting. Have you started drawing any of that down, or just trying to sketch it out? Yeah, what I do is, like, so that's what happens with me too in meditation.
Hmm.
I'll be deep in it, and basically the sun is in front of me, like over
Hmm.
here, and then they're just coming from the sun into
Yes.
my body.
Yeah.
So it's like they're small, they're getting bigger, and then they go in. So it's like
Hmm.
once I get to that part where I'm actually seeing them, like I'll try to, like, activate some photographic memory part, because at the end, because usually like an hour of meditation usually,
Yeah. It's like,
and I'll start drawing them down, and then what I do is I rub the paper with my hand, and
mm,
just doing that. And then this is like where you're kind of really downloading them. And
hmm,
if you do that while you're in meditation, just rubbing those symbols on a paper, and then just start journaling, just freehand, just let it flow
okay.
out, like just whatever comes out. I mean, you
Hmm.
just don't think about it, just start writing.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of times that really works, depending on where you are in your meditation practice,
Hmm.
to translate those codes.
Well,
So
right now, what I what I've seen so far, I mean, it started with very simple. It's all been geometry, and I think it's just sacred geometry is what it is. But
yeah.
it started with very simple symbols. I mean, very simple shapes, and then they, like the first one, it was just these shape. It was just they were just stationary and they were coming in, and then the next one they were they had like maybe a 3D element, like just a little bit dimension to them. And then the next one, they were moving, so
Oh,
they even
wow.
got a little bit more complex. Um,
Wow.
and now, like I said, now it's just like it just happens and I don't really focus so much on it. But it's interesting you're talking about the sun because there, the first time I did some sun gazing, that's exactly what happened. I was doing that and all these symbols were coming in and it was just like, oh my goodness, this is really cool. And it was the same kind of thing with symbols. And then it got to a point and then it just stopped. And it's like, okay, done.
Yeah, yeah, you got your codes. It's really
Hmm.
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm so happy that, going through life, I could have gone any direction.
Hmm.
In the music industry, I was in even the heavy metal world, and just, the club world and the electronic rave scene. There, it could have gone any direction.
Right.
And when we are, just wanting to bring something into our lives, even though we don't know what it is, we
Hmm.
just know there's something that is bigger than us, that we're just like, this can't be it. You know what
Right.
I mean? This can't be it. And, as cool or as fun or as, glamorous or whatever, I mean, this can't be it.
Yeah.
Like it's illusion. It's like it always felt like an illusion. And such a beautiful thing when we remember that and we receive that activation. And for everyone's different. Like, what was your activation? I mean, it's got to have been your mama, right?
Probably. We were working together because it's like, I think it probably must have happened now that you said that. because I was working with her. I was fully involved with it. I love this work. I was doing it all, but it was like, it was, it felt more like, I mean, I knew we were teaching classes and things like that. And we always had this part in the class, we're talking about karma. And I always felt like, well, this was definitely an agreement. First, it felt like karma because I was kind of pushed back in with my mother and I'm doing all this and it was kind of against my will. So I was like, oh, this is definitely okay. And then
like fighting it.
no, why are you doing this to me? Can you believe
Oh my goodness.
And then it shifted from there as I was adapting and accepting and things. And it shifted from there to it felt like an agreement, definitely an agreement that we are working together. And then, I'm going to say within a couple of years before she passed, it shifted very much to where it had a mission feel. This is my mission. This, so it must have been somewhere in there around the, in that point. I don't know if any specific thing happened. I don't remember, but when that thought process, when the feeling about it changed, that must have been when something enacted.
Right. Wow. So beautiful.
So
it's so interesting. Like you were like right there and you were fighting it. Wow.
Absolutely. So, oh my God. I look back and it's like, what was wrong with you? We don't know.
Yeah. You know what though? It's just, it's like it's also bringing into like how we got to this place, and where we are in civilization in this time where, and you think back to history of all these different, civilizations and countries and just seeing all the different things we've gone through and all the shadow, all that shadow. And it's just like, to get to this point where, I know I've had past life memories of some horrific things that I was involved in different lives, and
yeah,
it's interesting that like all this had to happen to like,
it brings you here.
Yeah, it brings you here because we're working on it, and if you're not working on it, it'll remind you the same way it reminded you in the last life to work on it, and it's up to you to pay attention, up to us to pay attention to what that is, because it's hard to distinguish, a life path or a memory from the past life or what it actually meant. We talk about this all the time when you're, you feel a certain way as a child, and then you get to like in your 20s or wherever it happens. And then you're just like, wow, like you always thought about it growing up. Like, why did I always feel this way from childhood, and then you get to, this it's like, oh wow, where is that connected and how do we work on it? And like that's it. You're just bringing it in and you're just like, okay, the intention is to work on something. You don't know exactly what it is, but that intention is there.
It's always for your growth. I mean, it's the working on it is for you. It's for your ultimate overall growth. So some people are like, why am I even doing this? What's this all about? It's on a soul level. It's on this other level. You are doing all these things to grow and expand and learn. I mean, it's just, it makes sense from the bigger picture. It's us down here in the weeds going, what am I doing?
Oh, Julia.
What's this all about?
So let's get back to the festival a little bit. Like you're doing you're part of our integration workshop series. What can people expect? Like without giving it all away, obviously, but what can people expect for this and then maybe a little sneak peek on like even the integration part of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be talking about how our bodies deliver messages to us. So, if we have any ailments, aches, pains, illnesses, things like that, that's our body trying to deliver messages from our soul, higher self, whatever you want to call it. But it's just trying to relay information to us for some reason. And it's understanding that, what it's all about. What are those messages? How is the body doing this? And then the integration part of it will be actually taking that information, working together with other people, and actually helping each other to understand that. So that's fully integrating within you, that understanding. Because it's one thing to know, like you said, it's one thing to know it. I can tell you this is how it talks. But then whenever I tell you, okay, now work with somebody else and tap into this and understand it, it's totally different than it. And it's just these major aha moments. It's really,
Yeah.
really cool. So that's what I
Oh,
find.
wow. That's gonna be so precious. You know, and you know, this community too is just really calling some stuff like this in right now. I mean, it's just, especially now, like we're in this like eclipse season, and like
Mhm.
then, you know, we're like, you know, 6 days away from something super major, you
Yeah.
know.
So
And
what we were talking about that beforehand, and you were asking me how I was feeling, and I said, well, it's interesting. It feels like I'm like there's so much coming in, and I was like, I didn't feel I don't have that much really physically going on. And before I even said that, though, you were like, so are you feeling eclipse stuff? That never even occurred to me that I might be feeling eclipse energy, you
yeah.
know. So what do you want to say about that?
Wow, yeah. For me, it's been so interesting because you know, eclipse seasons usually bring up so much work for me, like inner
Mm,
work, deep healing work, you know, in the past, I mean, I remember, so interesting. I remembered a couple past lives through QHHT,
mm,
like years and years ago, that I've been super connected because a lot of the trauma from those past lives were like affecting me in this life. I wasn't in the same trauma situation, but it was affecting me. But like
right.
this was a solar eclipse in 2022, you know, things like April or May. And I sat for 2 hours during that eclipse and connected with those two different lives that were very prominent, you know, as far as like my wounding, you know, that I was working with through. And I
Okay.
remember that during that eclipse, I connected to them like face to face, having almost a conversation, it felt like,
Wow.
and letting them know how the wounding from this life is traveled through a whole timeline, and I'm here at the end of it, like, you know, still working through it. And it was interesting because that was like the first time I ever got into something that I would call, and I kind of do it now with clients, is timeline healing.
Mm,
And you know, connecting with this past life and actually working through it and
mm,
finding, scanning the body to see where in the body is this wounding, this trauma stored. And then all of a sudden, like, you know, we're pulling the string, you know,
mm.
through that timeline and healing a whole, you know, timeline of wounding where, you know, you kept recreating the same trauma over and over and over again
Oh, but a
until,
recurring pattern.
yeah, yeah. So it's interesting, and this one is even more interesting because, like, knowing about it for the last year, you know, when it came into my field,
Mm,
um, again, I was like, "Oh, wow, I can't wait to work with this one and see what comes up." It's so interesting. This one was so different.
mm,
It's almost telling me to work on my stuff now before I get to that so that I can use the time during
mm.
to do work for the collective, you know. And it was really beautiful. So all this stuff has been coming up. It's been really, really beautiful, and it's bringing me back to childhood. So a lot of like,
Mm.
um, you know, patterning that came from our parents. So
Okay.
like for me, like I've been going down and writing down every little thing about, you know, my you know, my relationship. I have amazing relationship with my parents, but
Yeah.
as you're a child, you take on, you
Mhm,
know, some patterns from them,
mhm.
you know, like
Yeah.
if there's worry or doubt or criticism
Mhm.
or, you know, these are things that you take on. So it's like knowing that, like, and it was so interesting though. I've been writing down like my mom column and writing down every little thing that I've taken on that is, you know, and then I connected them to relationships and
Mm.
friends. And I started putting all these things down under all these columns, and I'm connecting the dots of like these patternings that are just
There you
trickling
go.
over,
Yeah.
you know. So I don't know, have you gotten into the bio code, the body code?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's what you're talking about.
yeah, like Bradley Nelson's technique, body code. So I kind of, it's so weird, I had to like kind of channel my own
Okay.
version of it. and I'm going down each column with the magnet and just, working through and trying to clear every single thing, and then doing some, getting in the gym or going on a walk, getting in this infrared sauna and just meditating and doing breath work. And so it feels like this eclipse is a little different. It's like, let's heal all this stuff, because this is going to be where it's this clean slate.
I was just going to say, so is it like it's released and then now
Right.
clean slate? Because now it's like, okay, now go.
Yeah.
You don't need to be waiting
Now
and all this stuff anymore. It's
the
gone.
light will turn green, and it's go time. And now you're going to go with this like, balanced vessel, mind, body, spirit. And if you're a light worker, if you're a healer, if you're a teacher, an facilitator, this is where we get to, bring on the new leaders. We bring on, really spread these activations along, because this is such a, monumental moment for us. And so that's what I've been getting from this eclipse, is do the work, just really focus on whatever it is. It's like we're all feeling it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's it. I mean, okay, can you imagine, just popped in because you said we're all hearing it, but what if you're not? What if you haven't gotten anything? You're not. Do you imagine? Because I know, like I know I do a lot of work at night in my sleep, and I'm not aware of what I'm doing. I ask to be aware when I'm activated or when I'm downloaded, but maybe I'm not aware of these things. So I don't even know where I was going with that. I guess I want your confirmation, or what do you think on that? Do you think
like
saying I don't get anything? I'm not getting anything like this. What do you know? Are they maybe going through stuff too?
Yeah, or there could be just blocks that are in front of that. So, we're all seeing things from different lenses. So, if you don't see it, if you're not aware of it, there's always something there. So like that's why, like, same with me, like I'm seeing patterns in, my life, and it just kind of was bringing me to where are they coming from, and like there's not so many different options to choose from. There's friends, there's relationships, there's your parents. You know what I mean? This is where
and your parents, or the ones you're with, your significant family structure, whatever you had when that's your major influence.
Yeah. You come in as exactly, love. You come in as this pure little starseed, and you're just a sponge. So that's the first information that's coming through. So, I think that's, if someone's out there and maybe they're not feeling that they're feeling anything right now from this, you wanna work on something, it's just take a little joyride back to childhood, and write down all the things that your parents, like, one by one, that you felt is affecting you today. Little things. My mom worries a lot, and I worked on that worry part of me for so long, like, and it's still there, because it's like this wiring, it's like you get back to it, and so there's so many different things that you can kind of be like, oh, I think I'm doing this because I witnessed this in my childhood, like, I think that's a good place to start, and then you start bringing in certain friends and relationships, and you can really work through a lot, just that, but obviously, getting into some QHHT sessions wouldn't be a bad idea either.
Absolutely, because that's one of the things. Like, you have the interview, and that's what we do. We go back to the beginning, and we're looking at all those relationships for that exact reason. It's like for the influences and what did it do, and we're looking. Were there patterns that were formed? Exactly the same thing.
So beautiful, babe.
It is.
Well, yay. So I love these type of things, because, like, as a producer, you want to just talk about the festival, go get your tickets, all the things, but it's just like, like, this is such an intentional event. There's so much purpose. It's like, I don't do this because I want to be a producer. I definitely don't. I would rather just go gridding, actually. And my staff, the same thing. They're just like, "You're going on another grid. We need you." And it's like, but at the end of the
Just
day,
gonna do my thing.
so this is just a container for people
Mhm.
to come and
Mhm.
encourage that activation, and encourage them to really like look inward. A lot of people ask like, where's disclosure come from? Why are you called Disclosure Fest?
Yeah, that's a good question. Mhm.
And I was like, everyone is expecting the answers like, oh, it's all about the ETs and government conspiracies and secret
Mhm.
space programs. Like, no, like, we're the disclosure. If we actually go inward to remember and disclose and unveil who truly we are, from the essence of our being, from like the beginning of the universe, if you want to say there is one. But that's the journey. The journey is the discovery and the disclosure of yourself. So that's where that comes from. So that's why these events, they're containers to try to be some sort of an example to that path of remembering, because that's what we did. We just forgot.
Mhm. We just forgot. And I say that all the time. We are great and powerful beings. We just forgot.
And for good reason. We needed to go through that shadow.
Mhm.
Like, I always look at ascension as like a hot air balloon. Like, we got to keep dropping the sandbags to go
Mhm.
higher. you
Yeah.
know and those sandbags they're so important. It's the
Yeah.
juicy stuff.
And
When
we'll
train
hold on to them for dear life. No, don't take my sandbag.
Yeah. So yeah, June 21st through the
Uh-huh.
23rd, y'all. Lake Castaic, California, which is just 30 minutes outside of LA. You
Yeah.
can get your tickets at disclosurefest.org.
Mhm.
You can get day passes, and you can go to a day list to see who's on those days. You can get 3-day passes. There's camping, showers.
You have so many options. It's amazing. You've got it all.
We
And
even got steam rooms now. So there's a whole activation of steam rooms. You can come and, get a ticket to get a steam. You can go swimming in the lake. And we have such an amazing music lineup with Rising Appalachia and Dea Dova and Purangi, Mose, Mike Love, Ruby Chase. It's a really long, beautiful. And then there's all these amazing speakers like yourself and Billy Carson and 19
Mhm.
Keys, and Bashar is going to be
Mhm.
there.
Yeah.
Actually, Bashar is actually, telling you you're asking you your activation. Like,
Huh?
Bashar was mine.
Oh, okay.
So interesting. It was like Bashar was mine. So I go back 1991 with Bashar. So it's cool to actually have him at the festival this year. He was at Stairway, but which is
Yeah.
amazing. But
Mhm.
now I can get him I'm just going to throw him on the stage over there and just be like, let's see who thinks he's a weirdo. But no, it's going to be so amazing. And
Mhm. I will.
this integration workshop series is super special. There's going to be a sacred fire. Our star ancestor space is going to have indigenous representatives from all over the world. So you really get into some wisdom, some indigenous teachings, and a lot
Mhm.
of wisdom, and
Very cool.
very balanced. And even at night, I mean, I limited camping for
Mm.
this to 1,000, 1,200 people, even though there's many more thousands during the day. But I wanted to do more of an intimate kind of camping. So our night evening programming is going to be like around the fire. There's going to be like
That-
stages that are doing acoustic and kirtan and just sing along stuff, very mellow. A lot of purpose, so come and
Mhm.
do the inner work, you know what I mean? So that when you leave, you can be an example for your community, for
Mhm.
your parents, for your friends, and start like spreading this freaking
Mhm.
vibration that's just ready. We're ready. It's ready right now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It is time. So, yes.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Well, I'm so glad we did this. I'm so
No,
glad we're doing this.
yeah. Oh, I can't wait to sit on your talk and your integration workshop part of it too. And Yeah. So thank you for having me. Thank you all for listening. And yeah, go to disclosurefest.org and snoop around, get a ticket, and we'll see you. We'll see you in the
We'll see you there.
yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you so much, Adrian. And
I
thank you,
appreciate
everybody. Love you. Bye.